Hey everyone, I'm going to show you as quickly as possible how to make a PDF that meets the submission requirements for CreateSpace. And then I'll also cover how to produce some artwork in a PNG format that we'll then insert into the PDF. So the first thing we'll do is decide what kind of a book we're going to make. This video is going to be specifically about a coloring book. And what we need to know is what size coloring book you want. So on the CreateSpace website, you can scroll to the bottom and there's all these different sizes of books. Since this coloring book that I'm going to do a demo for today, it's going to be a mandala coloring book, which is all made of round designs. So I'll use the largest square template that they have. So my book's going to be 8.5 by 8.5. Okay. So the first thing is to prepare your artwork, and you need to save your images, your coloring book images, as a PDF. So I'll open up Illustrator here, and this is my coloring book design. I made it in Mandala Creator, and after it's all done and I'm happy with the design, I'll copy it, so Control C, and then I'll paste my artwork into a new blank square document. So I'll go to File, New, and it'll be I want it to be in pixels actually. So from this little drop down menu, set it as pixels, and we'll do 2500 by 2500. Okay, and color mode CMYK, that's correct. Okay, here's my document, and then I'll do Control V. I'll paste in my mandala. Now it's pretty small, so I'm going to select it and then do Control G, which is to group it. So now I can drag it around without having to select all the individual parts. And I'll line it up in the center using these alignment tools. So I'll use horizontal and then the vertical. Now I can scale it up, but depending on your settings in Illustrator, the width of the line may or may not stay proportional. So if you aren't sure how to change that setting, just do this. Just go up to File, or actually Edit, Preferences, General, and then make sure that this box is checked. So if you see it unchecked, check it, and then do OK. And now I can grab the corner here, and I can hold Shift and Alt, and I can scale it up pretty much evenly. And I'll bring it, sort of close to the edge, something like that. That's fine. And that's good. Okay. And then when I'm happy that it's centered on this artboard and it's the size, it's almost going towards the edge but not touching the edge, I'll go to File and Save for Web. And it'll take a second to load. I want it to be 2500 by 2500 pixels, but I want it to be a PNG, so I'll go here and I'll select PNG 24. There we go. And I can save it here, and then I'll save it to a little temporary folder. So let's see, new folder, and we'll call it Coloring Book Images. Okay, I'll save it in there. And this folder should be in a safe place. What you're going to do is you're going to go through this process and create a bunch of PNGs of every single image that'll be in your coloring book, and you'll put it in this folder. And since this is going to be the first design in this book, I'll call it Page 1. Page 1, Mandala. Save. Okay. And I don't have a lot of other mandalas made, so I'm just going to keep using this. This is in this theoretical coloring book. Every single page is going to have the same design on it. So I'll save it again so I have at least 2 pages, or maybe even 4 pages to demonstrate this with. So save for web. It'll usually remember the settings you used last time. So we'll call it Page 2. And number 4 there. Okay, so I'll open up that folder. And when you make your book, you'll have a lot more images and they'll all be different. I'm just using these four just for a demonstration, just to make it simple. So once you have all of your images produced as PNGs, and they're all 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels, you can start to make the PDF. And you can do that in Illustrator. So we'll go back to Illustrator, and then I'll close these just so it doesn't confuse me. So I don't want to save that, and I don't want to save this. And I'll make a new document, new. And I'm going to use inches from now on because that's what they say on the CreateSpace website. So I'll go to inches. And then remember my book choice was 8.5 by 8.5 inches. So I'm going to type that here. Okay. And here is the beginning of my PDF, but we have to make a few little changes. That'll look confusing at first, but I think after you make your first coloring book, this will be a little more clear. So if you don't understand this, just do exactly what I'm going to describe here. And I think once you go through the process all the way to the end, it'll make a little more sense, but I'll try to describe it on the way. So we need to add something called a bleed to the edge of this. And you can find that information on this same page, how to create an interior PDF of your book. And it'll be one of these paragraphs down here, actually. Okay, if you want your images to bleed, yes, because our coloring book is going to be just images, and some of them may go over the edge. So we're going to add an 1/8 inch of bleed, 0.125, on basically 3 sides. But the reason 3 sides is we're not going to add bleed to the spine. Just because of the way they manufacture the book, they don't ever trim the spine. They just trim the top, the bottom, and then the opening of the book. So I'll try to visualize this here. So this is page 1, okay? And it's actually a sheet of paper. We're looking at one side. You know, the cover is open, the cover is over here. And this is page 1. And the other side of this is going to be page 2, okay? And altogether, page 1 and page 2 are on one sheet. And that's the technical term. So a page is a theoretical thing. It's a one-sided piece of paper, basically. But in real life, when you print your book, page 1 and page 2 are both sides of the same sheet of paper. So we're going to open up this book. The cover is opened over here, and this is the spine of the book. That's the top, that's the bottom, and that's the opening of the book. So this is the spine, and we won't add bleed. We're going to just add bleed up here, here, and then here. So I'll make a little box, and we'll use that as a guide to help us sort of increase this artboard 1/8 inch, 1/8 inch, and 1/8 inch. So I'm going to go over here to the transform shape options, and I'm going to make it 1/8 inch high, basically. So that's this one, right? So if I enter 1 in here, it'll make it 1 inch high. This is 1 inch. So I want it to be 1/8 inch, so I'm going to type in 0.125. So now it's 1/8 inch high. And I have smart guides turned on, so when I move shapes, they'll sort of stick to other shapes. And this is really handy. And if you don't have it on, you should turn it on, and you can do that by going to, I think, View, yeah, Smart Guides. Make sure this is checked, and then your shapes will snap together. So this is my 1/8 inch thick or high little shape, and I'm going to stick it to the edge here. And just to make it less confusing, I won't give it a stroke. I'll just give it a bright, easy fill. Okay, and then I'll copy that again. Control C, Control F. There we go. I've got another one. I'll stick that to the bottom. Okay, and then Control C, Control F, just like that. And we're just going to delete these little shapes later on. We're just using them as a little tool. And doing it this way will also hopefully make it less confusing. So now we have a little 1/8 inch block on 3 sides, not the spine. And now I want to make a box that is the same size of this artboard. So if I have this little snap to shapes thing set up. It'll snap to the corner, and I can draw a box, snap it to this corner, and we're going to turn this box into a set of guides, and we're not going to lock it. So kind of like when you use rulers and you drag a guide from the top, it's going to be like that, but we're not going to lock it. We'll leave it movable for now. And you can do that by while this is selected, you'll go up to, I think, View, and then Guides, and then Make Guides. And when you do that, whatever is selected will turn into a guide. So there you can see it. And what a guide is, it's something that's visible when you're editing your document in Illustrator, but when we export this as a PDF, they won't show up, which is important. We don't want weird lines on our PDF. We just want guidelines to show us where we can put our images while we're actually building the PDF. Okay, now we're going to increase the size of our artboard. And we'll use the artboard tool for that. That's down here. And now we're in artboard edit mode. And I'll select this little box here and scale it up so it snaps to the edge of that one. I'm just increasing my artboard by 1/8 inch on 3 sides. There we go. And now you can see the guide we made a little better. Okay, exit artboard mode, and then I can delete these yellow shapes. Okay. Now we have our bleed set up. Page 1, first page in the book. We're looking at it. The cover is flopped open over here. Anything in this little space here will be cut out during printing. Anything here will be cut out, and anything here will be cut out. And this is so that when you make images in your coloring book that go all the way off the edge, they'll always go off the edge, even if the printing is misaligned, right? So what you're basically doing here is making your image go way off the edge. So if the printing isn't quite lined up, it still gets chopped there, and you still have an image that goes to the edge. And if you research bleed, you can find a lot more information about this, and probably even better descriptions of what this actually means. So now we have our bleed all set. Now we have to deal with our margins. And margins are basically limits to how close of the edge of the page you want basically any text to go. So we'll find out what the margin specifications are on CreateSpace. It looks like we recommend an outside margin of at least 1/2 inch. Since this is a square book, I'd like the margins to be all the same. They're giving you minimum margins for all 4 sides of this page, but that's unnecessary. I want it to be a square. So I'll use a 0.5 inch, 1/2 inch margin all the way around. So I'll go back to our document here. And now I'm going to make another set of blocks, and these are going to be a 1/2 inch high. So I'll draw it here. So I'm going to make this dimension a 1/2 inch. So if I go up to here, right, and I typed 1 inch, now that's 1 inch high. And I can go and type in 0.5 inch, enter, and now it's a 1/2 inch high. So I'll drag this up there and make, copies of it, and stick it to all the insides of this guide that we made, the little blue guide. And I'll stick there, and then over here, there. So now I've got a 1/2 inch little block on the edge of this square guide that we made. Hopefully you can see that guide in this video. Sometimes the recording software makes it a little faint, but if you can't see it, probably turning up the resolution of this YouTube video will make that blue line a little more clear. So now we're going to make another set of guides that's going to be inside these yellow boxes. And just like that. There. So now I've got a yellow box that's a 1/2 inch away from our blue guide. And I'll turn this into a set of guides as well. So I'll select it and go to View, Guides, Make Guides. There we go. And all my guides are unlocked, so I can move them around. And that's important because now we're going to copy this artboard, and we want the guides to get copied with it. So remember, in a book, it's full of pages, but pages are 2 pages to a sheet, right? So there's both 2 sides to a piece of paper. So when we make this PDF, page 1 is the one side of a sheet of paper, and page 2 is the opposite side of the same sheet of paper. So I'm going to go to Artboard Edit Mode again, and I can move this artboard around, and I can also copy it by holding Shift and Alt. And I'll copy another artboard, the same, just underneath it. And this is going to be the other side of the same page. Okay, so these 2 artboards are going to be page 1 and page 2 of our PDF, but they're just one side and the other side of a single sheet of paper. So that means everything is going to be mirrored, our guides and everything, right? Because this is the spine over here, and when we're looking at this page, the front cover is flopped over here, but this is the opposite side. So then this is the spine, and the front cover is flopped over here like that. So we're going to move these guides. Just select them all, and we'll hold Shift so they only move in like a straight line basically. And we'll stick them over to the edge, maintaining this 1/8 inch here, 1/8 inch here, and now changing it an 1/8 inch here, whereas before it was an 1/8 inch over on this side. Okay, so page 1, page 2, 2 sides of a single sheet of paper, and now we're going to make a bunch of these artboards. We're going to copy a lot of them and start to lay out our book. It's a simple book. It only has 4 drawings in it, really thin book. So we'll zoom out, and we'll go back in artboard mode. Every time you make a new artboard, Illustrator will automatically name it and number it. So that's the first one we made, Artboard 1. That's Artboard 2, you see it there. This is page 1, this is page 2. Okay, so we're going to make page 3 now by copying that one, holding Alt and Shift. Okay, and then I'm going to make page 4, just like that. And keep your pages in little columns like this, because remember, this is one sheet of paper, front, back, okay? So we'll keep doing this. Now we've got page 5 and 6. Now I've got 7 and 8. Okay. So I've got 8 pages here because my coloring book is only going to have 4 sheets, right? So this is one sheet of paper, one sheet of paper, one sheet of paper, one sheet of paper. And I want the back sides of all of my drawings to be a blank page, right? Because I don't want somebody to color on one side of my coloring book and then their ink bleeds through. It's going to wreck the design on the other side. So you should try to make your coloring books so that there's only one design per sheet. And that means you're going to have a drawing on every odd number page, right? So on the front, the first page of this book, you'll have a drawing. Back side of that page, it's going to be blank. And then the third page is going to have a drawing. Back side, that's blank. Then the 5th, blank. 7th, blank. So we'll open up our folder of images that we made, and we'll place those. So here's our mandalas. And remember, yours are going to be all 4 different ones. These are just going to be just an example. And I'm going to drag those into Illustrator. And it's going to be too big. So right now they're all stacked. I'm going to shrink it and line it up with my inside box there. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to separate my images. Remember, they're all stacked up. Okay. You want to try to keep them in order. And I'm going to place my image on the very inside box there. Line it up. Okay. And you could actually scale it up even just a little bit because, right, remember we set it back from the edge when we saved this as a PNG. And none of your designs should really go beyond this if they're not designed to be a full page design. So for a mandala, right, this is fine. But if you want it to be a mandala that goes off the edge, just go all the way. Scale it up so it's going to go off the edge. And you'd want to move this artboard away so it doesn't go onto the back side of the page. But we're just going to do simple 1 mandala per sheet. And that's probably fine. Okay. So that's page 1. The back side of page 1's blank. Now we'll put our it's going to be page 3 actually, but sheet 2. And we'll drop that one in there. Scale it up just a little bit. Same for here. And then this one here. Okay. So we've got 4 sheets of paper in our coloring book PDF. The back sides are blank. Okay. And this would be pretty much it. Your PNGs have been placed. Don't embed those, right? So when I mouse over the image, there'll be like an X on it. That means it's still connected to the original folder. So if I went back here and deleted that one, okay, this would disappear in the document. And this is a good thing because it's going to make this document faster. Because if you embed these, it'll try to store the images actually in the AI file instead of just hyperlinking them to another place on your computer, which will make the file enormous and hard to work with, especially if your coloring book has as many as 50 drawings in it. Okay, so this only has 4 sheets of paper in this coloring book, and it's going to be altogether 8 pages, front and back. And your book will be a lot longer, so you just keep copying these blank artboards until you had, 100 pages. If you have 50 designs and you're doing them just one-sided designs, you're going to need 100 pages to put 50 designs on, right? But I'm happy with this book. I'm all done, and I'm going to save this as a PDF. So I'll go to File, Save As, and from this little drop down, I'll save it as an Adobe PDF, and I'll go back to my little working area here. And I think I'll save it inside the coloring book images folder just to keep everything together. And you won't see those images in here because it'll only show PDF files, which there's none. So I'm going to name this Book Test PDF. Actually, don't need to. That's redundant. Okay, save. And it'll bring up a little menu here, a little panel that'll ask you a few questions. Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. You don't need this, right? But while you're working on this coloring book, like if you want to just save it for now, obviously you might want to go back and change something later or whatever. Keep that checked. That's fine. That'll just make the file a little bit larger when you're uploading it to the internet, but it won't mess with anything. Okay, and then let's look at the compression. We want to see what it's going to do with these images. So color bitmap images, do not downsample. That's good. Compression, zip. This is correct. This is not going to lower the resolution of our images. If you're not careful, you could create a PDF and all of the PNGs that you've embedded in it, in this case my 4 mandalas, could become really low resolution because you haven't specified Illustrator PDF to make to leave those images at high resolution. Okay, so it'll just do some basic zip compression, which won't really do anything to PNGs at all, which is good. Compress text and line art. I think that's not a good idea. Save PDF. And now remember, this is an AI document. It'll turn into a PDF, book test PDF. And since we checked to leave it editable in Illustrator, you can open this PDF in Illustrator and change things just like that. And that's pretty much it. I can show you how this PDF opens if I go back to our folder. This is the PDF we made. I'm going to double click it. It'll open in Edge or something. And here we go. So remember, this is page 1, first design. This is page 2, which is the opposite side of the sheet of paper that page 1 is on, which is blank, which is good. So all of our designs are going to be every other page like this. And then also, this wasn't clear to me until I published my first coloring book with CreateSpace, but page 1, the first design, this is the very first page after you open the cover of the book. So if I've got a coloring book in front of me, and I open the cover, so the cover is going to open to the left, and I'm looking at the first page, that's page 1. It's a page that's on the right side of the book once it's opened, and it's the very first page. So it'll be the first thing somebody sees when they open up your coloring book. So for the first page of your book, you might not actually want it to be a design for coloring. You might want it to say something like, hey, thanks for getting my book. Test your markers here, and I recommend, putting a blank sheet of paper behind each of your designs if you're going to use a marker, and that'll prevent bleed through. You could have a message, something like that. So hopefully this is a pretty good overview about how you can make a PDF in Adobe Illustrator that meets the upload requirements for CreateSpace. But if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Other than that, thanks for your support and thanks for watching.